we're here with Jay today, the Reptile Zoo guy. Anything you want to say out there to the people?
Living the dream, guys.
Living the dream. That really is his quote. Living the dream. As soon as I met him, that was the first thing he said. Living the dream. So I guess speak on that. What does that mean to you? Like,
for me, it means a lot because I mean, my life started in what most people would say a failure. I mean, I was first an unwanted pregnancy, unexpected.
Oh, right.
Then I was given away to an adopted out, and then my mother passed away when I was 4.
Wow.
And then my dad became poor. He ended up drinking himself to death at 14. And so it starts a little bit crazy. So at the end of the day, for somebody like that, just finding that life is actually pretty cool is living the dream.
yeah. So tell me about that transition of like where you went from like the crazy beginning to where it switched, where you're like, oh, this is actually pretty cool.
Well, you know, honestly, the transition, to be completely honest, it took about, the real transition happened when I turned 40. Wow. I had an issue at 40, and I came to the realization that life is not in my control. Like, I think we spend a lot of our time being frustrated by what we think we should have or what we want to go get or, you know, what our lives are supposed to be. And I had a lot of great things happen to me long before then, but still, you know, some things that I wanted to happen never happened. And some things that I believe would happen wouldn't happen, and things that I never dreamt about would happen, which were good and bad. But at the end of the day, when I really at 40, I realized that I'm not in control, and to let, you know, in my case, let God have his way, and it's better than my way. And we ended up he had a better plan for me anyway. And just learning to just trust the next day.
Yeah.
You know, just like enjoy that today. Because, you know, it's that old, you know, panda thing. Yesterday is the past, tomorrow is your future, and today is your present.
I was reading something like that.
I can't believe I remembered that. I can't remember my own name, but you know, I mean, the truth of the matter is, I learned to live for the day a little bit more. I had a lot of things go wrong for the first time. Even though my life was complicated, I always was able to force it to go down a direction. But later, I realized it was already going down that direction a little bit, and it's like. It's kind of like sitting at a TV set watching your movie and screaming at your TV set. You know what I mean? And we've all done it, right? Like, no, the bad guy's right behind you, you know? But you can't change the movie, right?
Right.
And I'm not saying life is so, like, exact, but we do a lot of yelling and screaming and unhappiness and things that we have no control over.
Right.
And when you learn to just accept life a little bit, it's just really a lot more fun.
Yeah.
And you get to see a lot more things because you're a little broader view, and you realize, hey, you know what? I don't care how it works out, as long as it works out.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it opens so many more doors in life.
It sounds like you're like, don't even focus on the negative. Just focus on going with the day.
I mean, at the end of the day, I found that some of the most worst things to happen in my life, I got the most good things out of.
Wow. Why do you say that?
Because life. Perfect for instance, I love my mom, I love my dad, I know my dad and my mom now, but my dad's was a multi-millionaire, my brothers are multi-millionaire, you know, brother and sister, you know, have a ton of money, worked really hard, they've done really well for themselves, but at the end of the day, I'm happy with where I'm at. I don't think it would have turned out so good. I'm really was strong-willed as a youngster, and my dad's really strong. I really think it would have been hell. And I look back and I see the pieces, and I just realized some of the stuff that looked like it was my demise was my stepping stones for the future.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had so many times, you know, he's actually Matt, one of my friends, you know, had me watch a Will Smith YouTube the other day. And he talked about, and I mean, I already lived it, so for me it was like no big enlightenment, but he talked about how he was going skydiving, and, you know, he said, he literally said, oh, I got drunk the night before and we all said we're going skydiving. I went home and it was over. He was like, my night was ruined. I couldn't sleep, rolled over all night, you know, went to the place to meet him in the morning, and he was like, oh my God, they're here. You know, just thinking, how do I get out of this? And he went kicking and crying and whining in his mind, and just had a horrible 20 hours, 18 hours of thinking, you know, about this jumping out of a plane, you know, right to the moment, you know, going up in the plane, keep hoping that it was going to not happen, and went to be the last person to go out. And it came down to the time to go out, and he said like 3 seconds out of the door, he said it was like the best moment of his life. And he said, I was okay with that, but when I thought about all the time in my life that I ruined being scared and worried, and that part is the part that people don't typically think about.
Yeah.
So your fears can just screw you. This store right here, I almost got closed down 1.5 years ago. So close that we'll just say I've never had a lot of money. I've been in the most richest house with the richest people, been treated like royalty all over the world. I mean, when I say living the dream, that is freaking living the dream, going from a poor orphan to, walking around a prince of a country. You know what I mean? Private zoo and seeing animals. I mean, it's crazy. It's like the contrast is surreal. Yeah. You know what I mean? I mean, literally some of the places I go, only rich, famous movie stars get to go. It's like closed doors. Some of them, they don't care if you're rich or famous, you don't go. And I end up there, this kid that, like, had a horrible childhood that was told he would never make it. If that ain't living the dream, what the heck is? You know what I mean? Yeah. And I don't believe I could have gotten there without learning to take risks. And I don't mean jumping out of airplanes. I'm talking about, when you're worried about what your friends are going to think and you make the decision, hey, I ain't going to go do drugs with them. It's stupid. Why am I going to do it? You know what I mean? I don't know how I got the guts that I had when I was a little kid. All my friends took drugs. And I would sit back and analyze and be like, I don't want to be like that idiot. And I would tell them, I don't want to be like you. You're stupid. And they'd look at me and they'd go, I like you. And instead of driving all these people away, they loved me, despite the fact that I would just rip on them. And it wasn't rip on them like to hurt them. Yeah. So they knew I loved them.
Of course.
Which I think is a key to all life. I mean, if you don't, if you do something just to gain, just thinking of yourself, you don't care about the other person, you're willing to lie, beg, steal, manipulate, good luck. I don't think your dream's coming. You might think you're going to be in your dream because you forced yourself down a route, but I think when you get there, you're going to find something you didn't ever want to find. That's just my opinion. You're going to be alone. You're going to be alone at the end, sucking on your last breath, unhappy. But whatever, that's their choice. But at the end of the day, I just think that, these people all took me in like I had no family, none. And they all took me in at very young ages. And, despite how, dark some of them were, they just treated me like I was a family member. And
it seems like they liked your character just because you were, like, honest and open.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, it's kind of scary to tell all your friends, hey, I don't want to smoke pot. I don't want to, now it's illegal. You know what I mean? No, but just because something legal doesn't mean it's good for you. You know what I mean? Marijuana's legal for you. You know what I mean? But now suicide's probably legal. That doesn't mean it's very good for you.
We don't want that either.
Right, that's my point. I mean, it's like just because everybody's doing it does not mean it's what you should be doing.
Yes, and I think that's the hard part. Like how you said, I don't know how you had the courage to even just open up to your friends.
To be completely honest, I was born with the biggest chip on my shoulder, and I hated it. Oh. But you know what? Remember I told you the things that I hated the worst helped me the most? It also is the same chip that I finally was able to take from being Mr. Attitude to Mr. Strength. Right. And I'm not trying to sound like I'm Mr. Strength, but there's not a lot that scares me.
I see those.
I don't think anybody that follows me doesn't know that.
His 12-foot snakes, that's already terrifying to half of the world.
Well, I almost died by a rattlesnake bite. I've almost died. I had my own business. I started a business, amazingly enough, at 15 years old, a commercial fishing business. And when I started it, everybody laughed at me. One of the other fishermen literally there was a guy named Uncle Louie that I moved in with after my father died, and I just paid him rent and saved my money and worked and did my own thing, and everybody was making fun of that. He was helping me along, and he wasn't giving me no money, but he was still kind of like an authority figure, And so when I wanted to do it, he wasn't stopping me, and everybody's like, "Oh, you're gonna be part of the Uncle Louie Diaper Brigade," and I'm like, and everybody throwing rocks at me, saying how I was never gonna make it, and I'd heard it my whole life in school because I was so bad in school. I didn't go to school. I only went to school to fight. I mean, it was really ridiculous. That chip on my shoulder, it just was what it was. I mean, I didn't usually pick fights, but sometimes, a lot of times, honestly, I was defending people. Or I didn't like a bully, and I just think, well, why don't you bully on me? And I wasn't even a big guy. I just had an attitude. I'm still not a big guy, but I had a big attitude. And so anyway, all this stuff, like I said, a lot of the stuff that I didn't like when I was younger, losing your temper is not something that to be proud of, and it's something you don't even know why. And so when so it's something you have to learn, but at the same time, having some strength in you is kind of nice too, because it gives you the ability to, when you don't want to do something, to say no. And I was really lucky in that respect, that somehow deep down inside me was the willingness to fight to do what I wanted to do, and which was a pain, but in the long run, then I was able to do what I wanted to do when it was something that when it was something that was good.
Yeah.
And so sometimes in life, we get mad, right? We get upset. And use that term, "You got me so angry." Well, it's really nice to be able to think instead that you're in control of your own anger, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because you literally tell somebody, "You make me angry," you're saying, "You are controlling me and I'm your puppet." And so to be able to instead have enough control to say in your mind, "No, you're not going to make me mad, and I'm going to be okay with it. And you know what? I'm okay with you," is very empowering. And so you take that outer strength that everybody sees as strength, and you turn it inward, and then you actually are free.
So let me ask you, all this, do you feel like you wanted to learn how to be the way you are, or do you feel like you just were kind of born with it?
I think we're all born to be something.
Right. Because
I saw a quote the other day, and it was Einstein, and he said, all people are geniuses, but a fish can't climb a tree. So so I think our system is messed up.
Yeah.
I mean, I went to school, and if somebody could have pulled out what I'm good at, I would have been. I mean, they did actually. By the time I was in high school, I got into shops, metal shop, wood shop, machine shop. I was genius. When I was I'm not trying to brag, but when I was a freshman. By the end of the freshman year, I went from being just like the lowest you can be to the highest you can be in my freshman year in high school. I was the advanced, in my sophomore year, I was the advanced metal assistant instructor, basically. I was right below the teacher, and I promise you that teacher this day will say he was it was unbelievable.
You were just like the star,
unbelievable. Everything in my life had been F's, literally. They were D's because you couldn't get from the next grade, and so they basically just shove you through with D's to the next grade. And I struggled with everything. When I got to machine shop and wood shop, I was so far I'll give you one quick story. I went in the metal shop, right? First day, so the teacher says, "Oh, we're going to make this project. It's our first quarter project," right? So I listen, he goes, "Don't complain to me if you don't like your grade. If you get a D, it's because your friend next to you got a B. C. And if you don't like your C, it's because there's a guy ahead of you that got a B. And if you don't like the B, there's a guy that did better than you got an A. We go on a curve. Don't cry to me, basically." And the next day, I made my part. I made the quarterly project in one shop day, not even a whole shop day. And I went to hand it in, and he goes, "What are you doing?" I go, "I'm going to hand in my project." He goes, so he called everybody in like 2 minutes before the shop day ended, the first day, the second day technically. And he walked in, he goes, "Okay, so tomorrow we're going to show you why you don't make your project in one day." That's what he did. So he said, "Tomorrow we're gonna grade this, his project that he turned in. He's confident that it's perfect, and we're gonna grade it tomorrow, and we're gonna show you guys why you don't make your project in one day." Wow. Guess what? Best one of the year.
Are you serious?
And then so the next day he graded it. He was man enough to say, I just want to tell everybody, I was wrong. You did an incredible job. And this will be the benchmark to beat for a good grade. So he was man enough to tell, after humiliating me in front of everybody, he was also man enough to say it. Wow. And the funny thing, to tell you the truth, I dropped out of school at 16. My counselor told me, this is literally, my counselor didn't believe, my counselor would meet me at school, and and she'd meet me and she'd be like, you know, knew I had horrible grades, knew I was struggling. And at this point I became a Christian in high school, and I had really decided I'm gonna just like bury my nose into this whole idea of school and fight my way out of it. Like, I don't care how far I'm behind, I'm gonna try my best, I'm gonna give it 110%. And I mean, I improved, but I was like, you know, I mean, it was just too late. And to be honest, I think I have a lot of, I bet you they probably don't have enough letters in the alphabet for my, I'm serious, listen to me talk. I mean, if you really listen to me talk, I don't even complete every sentence. It's just the way I am. I mean, this is me.
But at the same time, it's like, okay, so like, when I gotta meet you, it's different though, because like, once you get out of the world of school, and you notice that sentences don't need to be complete, it's more of a connection with people, rather more your charismatic character and just who you are, and that's so much of a difference of how you're saying the school system is fucked up, where people are so focused on just getting grades, they don't know how to focus and build themselves up.
And half of that, they throw you a calculator. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, there's Google, man. You know, and let me tell you, I'm not against schooling. I wish I could have learned, and I think everybody should look at school a little different, as gathering tools to go find their dream. And all these tools will come in handy later. I didn't have a lot of tools, but I figured out how to use the ones I had.
Exactly.
And the funny part is, when I actually, after that counselor had asked me like multiple times, like, oh, what'd you do this weekend? I said, oh yeah, I made $1,000, and then she walked, I think she was just like, oh my God, I can't stand another lie, you know? And one day she walked up to me right before Christmas vacation and she said to me, so what are you gonna do at Christmas vacation? And I said, I'm gonna work every day. I'm gonna try to bank like $5,000 or $10,000, which is a lot of money back then. You know, I'm gonna try to, I think I was gonna try to get my bank account to $10,000. And she looked at me like, you know, I told her, you know, I'm gonna go to the moon. I'm gonna go to the moon, and I'm gonna take a weekend up there, and I'm gonna come back. Just like, she looked at me like, you little liar. You know what I mean? And she goes, oh, so what days will you be working? I go, every day. And she goes, what do you think about me coming down and visiting you? I said, awesome. You know? And so she showed up, and of all days of the world to show up, she showed up on Christmas Day. And I don't know why, but I thought it was so strange. She'd come strolling in there in the morning on Christmas Day, walking, and it was actually probably the best day she could show up, because on Christmas everybody's not working, right? Well, Asian people, Chinese people, all the people who like fish, they don't really care it's Christmas. So they're literally lined up at my boat, and I did go fishing, and I had this massive bunch of fish, and I had this line of like 40 people long. And she walked up, and her eyes just got about that big. And I pulled this, and just coincidentally, the biggest fish I had, a customer was buying it. And they're weighing it up, fighting to get it in the scale. It was so big. And I remember it was like $63 or something. And she looked and heard that number, looked at that pile of fish and thought, whoa, he hasn't been lying. All those numbers are real. And I tried to talk to her, and she's like, no, you're really busy. I want you to come to my office the first day you get back to school. I want you to come straight in. I'll have it all set up. I want you to come straight in. So I come in, I go in her office. She shuts the door behind me, right? Looks at me as serious as can be. And what I'm going to tell you, if you tell anybody, I'm going to tell them you're a little liar. And I thought, what the heck's going on? I mean, I had no clue. I mean, I didn't really piece it all together till later, you know. And she just goes, you need to drop out of school immediately. Let's face it, you're never going to be anything in school, and you're making more than half the teachers here. And she says, there's no incentive to stay in school. You need to get out immediately and chase this thing and go make your money now while you can. And I said, well, I ain't gonna work. I have no mom, no dad. I don't want to end up in jail. And she says, you have no relatives? I go, I have no living relatives. And she says, well, where do you live? And I said, well, I live with this guy named Uncle Louie. And he says, well, Uncle Louie, that's good enough for me. And he says, will he sign you out of school? I go, absolutely. I said, no, there's no problem. He'll sign me out of school. He knows that I'm making good money. And I mean, I'm fishing with other adults and making the same money. I mean, when I talked about that guy making fun of me, that guy that made fun of me about going fishing at 15, he ended up following me to my spot because he couldn't catch enough. He'd been fishing 30 years. You know, I'll tell you, if there's ever something I was gifted to do, it was catching fish. It was just incredibly ridiculous. And so basically the teacher, the counselor just told me I should get out. And I said, she came up with a plan. She said, I'm going to sign you out of school. You just sign this paper. I'm going to sign you out of school with that. And then I'm going to basically sign you out of school saying you're going to night school. And then she just threw all the paperwork away, I think. Because she promised me that police would never show up. No new truant officers. They never showed up. Off I went. So life is interesting.
It is. It is.
It's very interesting.
I feel like that was the peak, and that's a perfect way to end it.
Yep, me too.
And honestly, if you guys ever want to learn more, Jay is here all the time. Just look up. You mind if I share your...
No, I'm actually going to work on a book. If you really want to know a lot of the stories, it's pretty incredible because the whole journey has been quite a journey. And the biggest thing I want to tell everybody, if you think your journey needs something, it needs nothing. It's not all about what you have, what you don't have. It's not all about what you think you need or what you think you got ripped off on. I promise, get beyond all that and you'll be fine.
All right. Jay, thank you. And we'll see you guys next time.